Like, I think it may be the most Snyder ever Snyder. I'm Austin.
And I'm Cloud.
And this is We Watch. Today's movie is Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch is a 2011 psychological fantasy action film directed by Zack Snyder, starring Emily Browning, Abby Cornish, Jenna Malone, Vanessa Hudgens, Jamie Chung, Carla Guino, Oscar Isaac, John Hamm, and Scott Glenn. Have a plot synopsis.
The movie's not as good as the song. I'll just give that to you. All right, so enjoy the song just a little bit longer.
It's not even a song from the movie, like it is sometimes, but it sounds kind of like it could be.
Okay, so supposedly some parents die, leaving two young ladies by themselves and their uncle, and the uncle gets rapey, and so the older sister tries to shoot the uncle, but the bullet ricochets and kills the sister, and then the older sister gets put into a psych ward, but it's actually a prostitution stripper dance hall kind of thing, and then they hallucinate because hypnotic dancing, I guess. Like, everyone's hallucinating, even if they're not even there. And then lobotomies.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to unpack there. But before we do that,
Got something special for you tonight. Yeah.
this is the second movie that we ever saw together.
Yeah, was it
The first movie was
Battle
Battle
LA?
Los Angeles,
Yeah, Los Angeles,
which
yeah.
was, we liked this a great deal more at the time than we liked Battle Los Angeles at the time. I
Yeah.
have not seen Battle Los Angeles since then.
Nor do I want to.
No, I don't especially want to either. Although maybe now that we're doing this, at some point we have to go back and finish off the
Someone shows up
the
and
first-
smashes the car to pieces. Like, no,
the first of the first two movies that we ever saw together. Which, if we had waited until March, it would have been the 9th anniversary of that. So,
It's been such a long time.
yeah.
and like I look, because I figured I did, because like I don't have like everything, and especially since they don't even print tickets anymore, you get like receipt paper, and like I have some of those too, but they're a lot harder to keep, and the heat printing on them fades really fast. But back then they were still doing actual tickets on ticket paper, and I have the ticket from when we saw it, and I had forgotten, because I hadn't looked at the ticket in a long time, that we actually saw it in IMAX. Now, not like, Science Museum Dome IMAX, like, like multiplex IMAX, but still IMAX. And apparently paid $17 each for it. And that was,
Really?
yeah. So it says $17 because it was 7 p.m. So it was an evening show.
Wow, I don't
So,
even remember any of that.
I the only thing that I specifically remember is like I have a very clear image of us sitting like where we were in the theater, which was near the back. And I seem to remember there not being like a ton of people there, even though it was an evening show, and it was let's see, March 26th of 2011, 7 p.m. And which was like the day after it, like the picture of the poster that's here says March 25th. So it's like immediately after it came out. And I still remember it being relatively not that many people there. And like I have this image of what the theater looked like and being in there, and like you having your Game Boy out beforehand, and but I didn't remember that it was IMAX, and I didn't remember that we paid $17 for it. But yeah, it was a Saturday, so it was the Saturday of the opening weekend. Do you remember being excited for it, or
Not
was it just like a
necessarily.
cool thing, like here's a thing that's coming? I should look. I should have had this up already, but I'll go ahead and try to get it up. What else was showing that weekend? Because like I have the Battle Los Angeles ticket, which is right next to it, and that was like 6 days before, so that would have been the previous weekend. And I remember that because I don't remember. I didn't remember the date. I'm looking at the ticket, but I remember the that one only cost $10.50, which is also, so it was 7:05 p.m. It was just at the same theater, the Regal Waterford 20 in. Was it technically in Orlando? Or was it still in Winter Park? I remember you had to like drive way down towards like FSU to get there, but I don't remember what the like city limit situation was.
I'm not sure.
And it doesn't say on the tickets. But
I mean, you could be on one road and be in Orlando, and then be in Winter Park, and then be right back in Orlando.
yeah, and then be in Castleberry, and then be in Altamont Springs, and you could not go not very far and be in a bunch of different places according to the signs, and not have really intended to go much of anywhere. But that was on the 20th, so that was on Sunday the 20th, so it was the Sunday before. That was not IMAX. But I remember what that looked like because we were sitting in the very front row because we decided at the last second that this was something that we were going to do, and there were no seats, and we sat very, very close, which I suppose maybe diminished the enjoyment somewhat, but not. It's not because we sat too close that we didn't like it.
Yeah.
It's also not good independently of your viewing circumstances. So
I mean, hell, I'll watch a movie with like my head turned sideways, half upside down. You know, like being close to the screen is not my first concern.
yeah, and I remember, like, I know we went to see Battle Los Angeles with Fat Joe.
Yeah.
But I don't remember if anybody was with us when we went to see this or not. Do you remember if Joe was there?
Maybe
or...
Philip.
I don't know. I don't remember knowing Philip. Well, no, I knew Philip, but did you? I guess
Yeah.
maybe we both knew Philip like independently.
I like sat beside Philip
And then-
for like half the classes that we had.
I know, but this is really early in the. This is the like I started in August, and you started slightly before that, but then we didn't meet until March of 2011.
I started October.
So, yeah, but you skipped classes because you'd already taken classes elsewhere.
Yeah, I skipped because October was my first month for photography, and then I skipped the classes after that and went straight into lighting.
Yeah.
And so I
And
didn't
I
know
think-
anybody until digital, because that's when our classes finally like actually aligned. Like that's like where Kenny.
Yeah, that's
and,
when all
and-
of us
and-
aligned
yeah.
for like independent reasons. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like you started later but skipped classes. Kenny started earlier but then failed a class. And so then it all came together in DC, digital cinematography.
Yeah, because there was DC
and it all came together.
and wasn't DC and editing at the same time, or was it DC and lighting too?
I think that's right.
Because all I
think
know
that's right. I
'cause
think it was
yeah.
Lighting 2 and DC 1.
because like whenever we had editing one, I sat beside Philip like the entire class. Because that's when Pokemon White and Black came out, and me and him like were like mad dogging on that. Like, bro, like I need you to trade me the snake. I need the
Yeah.
snake.
Which I guess is probably what you were playing while we were waiting for Sucker Punch to start, sitting there
That's
in the Regal IMAX.
most likely.
I don't remember, but I mean, typically, like if you had your Game Boy out, it was usually Pokemon.
my Nintendo DS
or DS, yeah.
You get it right.
I think I said DS the first time, didn't I?
No.
Or did I not? Okay,
You-
I don't know.
yeah,
I said
everybody
Game
remembers the Game Boy.
Boy. It's basic. It's a Game Boy. It's just a later Game Boy. So the stuff that you said in the synopsis, that it's like it's an asylum, but then it's also this thing. Like it isn't really. He does this like layer thing. What various critics called it a Russian nesting doll. Now, of course, this is like 8 months after Inception came out. Inception was 2010. In I think late July or so. I remember it being the first movie that I saw after I moved to Florida, and I saw it by myself. By myself with people that I knew. It was a full theater, but like I was by myself because it was after my parents and my brother went home, and before. I think it was like 2 days before the first day of class. I'm pretty sure. I think it was before I had even started class to even meet anybody. And so the idea of like a multi-level story shouldn't have been like that. Like, we don't know how to watch or understand this because we just did it with Inception like a few months ago. But it's like they do weird transitions, or he does weird transitions where it does mix the like, wait, what's real, what's not, because like there's the asylum, but then they're doing the like asylum setting for one of the dances in the nightclub, and that's how we get to that layer. But it seems like the asylum layer is like the real layer, and like everything else is like happening in her vague imaginings while she's being kept under by antipsychotics and whatever until the lobotomy doctor can get there. Because it can't all be actually real. Like there has to be like a real layer somewhere, and it seems to be the asylum one, because that seems to be the world that the other girl still exists in when she escapes on the bus. Except that doesn't make any sense because that's got to be in the nightclub layer because she didn't know anybody that we saw really in the asylum. So it is kind of messy, I guess, and we don't really know what's what.
Yeah, okay. So upon the more recent viewing of this movie, one of the things that I remembered not liking came back and punched me right in the gonads in Strife. Even though it wants to make it seem like the psychiatric ward, like that portion is supposed to be real, there isn't anything that actually defines it as being real for certain. Because even at the end of the movie, when the one lady manages to like get the free bus ride, and it's the old wise man, and the story ends up just being, it's like the way it's trying to connect hurts it more than it helps it, because it removes the tangibility of it being real. So whenever we get started with these the two females and their lost parents, and then you get the uncle.
Yeah, I think that's part of the anchoring, sort of, because that's where we start before anything changes.
I was fine with this until they give us this weird cut, and then you find out it's some other blonde lady who's supposed to receive the lobotomy, and then it's just like, oh, what kind of skit is this? Like, how is this supposed to turn people on?
Which she says.
Yeah, and then it's like this...
And I agree with, but...
This weird shaking of it, where it'd be different if the lady that was sitting in the chair was the actual same actress as what we had seen previously. So then it would have been more of this idea where here you are, the character in both of these stories, understanding that you were a character in this story within the story. But it's a different person completely.
Yeah, she's a different person in that layer.
And so since she is a different person going through the previous story that led up to this point, you can't really say that that's true because we don't know. We've been told, hey, this is a story that is supposed to be kinky and you're going to get lobotomized, but it's not real. And then at the end of it, it's her running away, but the previous person still gets lobotomized. How would we even know that from these other perspectives?
Yeah, well, and that's the weird thing, is that now she's not really active in the story because she's been lobotomized, but the story continues on without her there. So, like, she's not the... It's not like we have an unreliable narrator because suddenly she's not the narrator anymore, because now she's not there, but things still continue. And so it is hard to say what perspective anything is from.
Now, while I didn't like the old guy also being the bus driver, I didn't have a problem. Like, I'm not going to complain about it negatively. I'll just stay. I'll flatline it. I don't like it. I think it was unnecessary, but at the same time, I'm okay with it, based off of the fact of he at any time could have been driving up to the psych ward anyways. And he may have known, hey, I'm just a bus driver, but there's some shady business going on over here. And I recognize this lady being from the psych ward, and I'm doing this to help her. And maybe some of the other ladies had seen me before, and that's why I'm the old wise man that this one is hallucinating about while she does her weird hypnotic dancing.
Yeah, because that's the thing about him being the bus driver is if it is imaginings of some kind in somebody's mind in whichever layer, they have to have met him at some point in order to imagine him, and we don't know when or where that happened.
And so I will suspend my belief a little bit to say, okay, maybe he had an interaction that is unimportant for us, and he is real, but if he's not, I will still accept it as being an entertaining little, like, cherry on top. Like, the sundae is still missing some stuff in it. The ice cream tastes like shit, but I still enjoy that cherry that's on the top of it. What also helps is he plays Stick from the Netflix Daredevil show.
Well, he plays a lot of... We've talked about Scott Glenn on the show before, including him being in movies that we didn't actually do for the show when we talked about Backdraft after we watched that relatively recently. And I can't even remember what other things, but he's been in a ton of things, and I generally enjoy him. And I do enjoy him as the briefing guy in a video game context, the way that he's used, except as the bus driver. Like, he does a really good job of that. And also, like, we've called him in the past Discount David Carradine.
Because, that's what he feels like.
But he sort of, and he even, like, plays, like, some kind of martial arts master in this, so that's even another anchoring point for his vague David Carradine-ness. But, which, like, that's the first, like, fantasy thing that she has, or whatever, like, the first video game sequence, we'll call it, even though Snyder said that he kind of hoped that people wouldn't just view it as, like, that he wanted it to be a cool story and not just like a video game where you're loose and going nuts, quotation. And so but he gives her a katana and like a Colt, like 1911, and it's like with like a tassel on it. And so it's a weird, like, exactly what ancient art are you like a master of here with your like samurai sword and also like handgun, and also because it like the setting is like, you know, ancient China or Japan or somewhere, and then also guns, which then she keeps for the rest of the time. Like, she has that pistol for a long time until I think it gets lost in like Robot World War II somewhere.
Yeah.
Which there's a great deal of, even though what we watched this time is the like extended unrated edition, which from my memory of it, which is 9 years old at this point, didn't seem different really. Like there wasn't anything that I noticed. Like there's supposedly like it's like 7 minutes longer or something. So there's got to be something in there that wasn't there.
Well, I don't remember that scene. Yeah.
But I kept thinking like there's got to be something that I don't remember. And the only thing that I didn't remember, and that doesn't mean that it isn't there, but I just didn't remember. And I guess some of it must be there. Maybe it's longer. But I had no memory at all of the high roller scene at the end, just before we come back to the asylum, where like he's like taking off his cufflinks and trying to convince her to like agree with what's going on because that's what he wants and he doesn't want to just take things. I don't have any memory of that scene. And I guess it was there. I haven't checked. I was going to check, but then I thought maybe we could just talk about it. Maybe you remembered whether it was there or not. But
Okay,
I don't remember that scene at all. I don't remember it.
See, the funny thing is I remembered a scene kind of like that, but nowhere near to the extent of what I watched.
Maybe it is longer.
And like maybe that's where it is, and I had no idea that's who it was that was doing
7 minutes
this.
more of the high roller scene.
And I'm like, wait a minute.
But you would think that it would be, stuff in the game sections, because we can have more violence or whatever. Although it feels like they didn't bother to touch those at all, because there's like one point where they like censor a word with like a plane flying by or something, or like an explosion or something. They do it in sort of a clever way, where like it's implied that they said it, but they don't. Like, they can't bleep a movie, of course, but they in effect bleep it atmospherically. And there's no reason to do that in the unrated version, but it doesn't seem like any of that stuff was touched. Or maybe they just didn't have the audio for it or something, because it's there where like you could put it in there and hear it. It's not like the truck drives by every time they say the parents' names and in Fairly Odd Parents. Like, it's not that where there's no possible way to put it in.
Or where SpongeBob is supposed to be saying swear words and you hear like dolphin clicks.
Well, those you could put back in, except for the end where it's Old Man Jenkins and his jalopy. But so you could put it in, and they didn't put it in. But supposedly it's unrated. But in the original version, it was PG-13, and there does seem to have been, despite the sort of general rapey atmosphere that's happening in all of the nightclub layer, there is a great attempt made to minimize the rating effect of the violence. So, like, we want to have big, giant battle scenes and have it be exciting and have a lot of people get shot and sword fighted and things explode. But it's okay, none of them are people. Because it's like weird magic, like empty armor in the first one, and then it's like, it's like the Nazis, but they're already dead, but they're being like kept alive by like clockwork and steam power, or not kept alive, but like kept walking around. And he makes a very specific point of saying, like, don't feel bad about killing them, they're already dead. And it's a neat idea, this like, like clockwork, like Nazi soldiers kind of thing. Like, that's a neat sort of, not really steampunk because it doesn't look like that, but just a neat like fantasy idea. But nothing that gets killed is real, except when one of the actual people gets killed, which they do in like, the nightclub layer. Like, he just like shoots her right in the head. Yeah. And like, that's really violent. But I seem to remember that being there. Yes. Maybe you didn't actually see it. Maybe he fired off out of frame or something.
Well, no, like she was in frame, but you only get to see her from like the back.
Yeah.
And when she gets shot,
like,
it does.
Her head or
anything. It kind of pushes her off frame. So like you see it and you hear it, but you don't see the aftermath or the actual effect of it.
Yeah, it's still really shocking though when it happens.
Like, the most violence that I would say would be when the chef dude was getting a little rapey. And then the kind of beating that the dude who owns the place kind of hands out towards the end of the movie, after he does like the bang bang and everything's falling apart. And someone could have just stabbed him when he had his back turned.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're going through the whole plan, like, we need the 5 things, we got to have all 5, and we need a knife, and they got a knife, and he's right there, and you could just kill him. You could just do it. He's trying to shoot somebody. And they're like, nah, I want to see how this plays out. And I'm just like, nah, this is dumb.
Well, there is kind of an impassable waist-high trees kind of feeling, like Resident Evil 1 door keys and things, that there is this adherence to we have to get the 5 things. Like, that's what the mission objectives say, and so we have to do it. Like, and I want to be like really clear here. Like, I don't have any problem with video games. I like video games. Some of my favorite stories in any kind of media are in video games. So saying that there are a lot of video gamey elements is not a criticism necessarily, but there is a lot, especially in the nightclub layer, a lot of video game feeling about it. It's the like access to the real video game layer, but then there is this like, we're gonna write the list and we have to get all of the things, and if we don't get all the things, then we can't execute the plan. And it seems sort of like an arbitrary list of things at first, especially when Scott Glenn tells us the list, or tells her the list in Ancient China. But because it's, and then the vagary of the fifth thing that I can't tell you because only you know, which is like you have to sacrifice yourself. Which also seems kind of arbitrary, because if they just got the knife and went and stabbed everybody, like that solves the problem right there.
Yeah, they outnumber them like vastly.
And we know that Blue doesn't carry a gun. He doesn't like guns, because he like gets it from one of the bodyguards and then hands it back to them and makes a point of saying that he doesn't like guns.
Bro. Now, I didn't like the whole him discovering that the map was copied because the copy machine was still really hot.
Yeah,
I'm
really
like,
hot.
Bruh.
Well, it is a weird period of time that the nightclub takes place in, because they're using a reel-to-reel tape recorder, and the clothes seem very like 30s or 40s. But then there is also a copy machine, and if there is any reality to that layer at all, they're also imagining things that they can't possibly know about in the video game layer. And so I have no idea what time period this is. I mean, it's not a real place at all. It's some kind of fantasy amalgamation of all kinds of things. And it just like happens to take large elements from the 40s, but isn't the actual real life 40s. It does feel like the house where the creepy uncle lives, like that could take place in the like series of unfortunate events universe. Like it's very unfriendly and actually kind of seems like a different place than the bus escape at the end.
Yeah, it does have a much older kind of dirt. Like I expect like dust on furniture.
Yeah.
That's like they covered it in like why am I so dumb? I'm thinking of like curtain blinds, like, you know, but like they're sheets.
Yeah.
You know, like that stuff's just thrown on it, but it's been there so long that the dust has seeped through it.
Yeah.
So when you just take it off,
you
just
whip it off and dust flies everywhere, and then there's still dust on the furniture, so it was for nothing.
Congratulations, you failed. Map, fire, knife, key, and then whatever. Him noticing that the printer is hot, even though it's been too long. The printer should have cooled down.
I don't know. Old copy machines got real hot.
But he also has a printer, and he should know it should get warm anyways. Is no one ever using the printer? Like, what kind of business is this?
He didn't print anything.
Fire. They have to make this whole big deal about getting the lighter from the dude who's smoking a chode. Chode, for those who understand what a chode is. Look at his face and then imagine that. You're welcome. Like, they have a kitchen. Is there not like an extra lighter in the kitchen, you know, just in case?
Or matches, something?
Anything.
It doesn't seem like it's likely to be a self-lighting gas stove in whatever period of time.
Because it looks like a piece of shit.
It does. So probably he's lighting the stove with something.
And I don't even remember what they needed the lighter for to begin with.
To start a fire as a distraction, they say. Bruh,
I didn't even notice it. The knife. They got like scissors and stuff.
I mean, you would think they would have scissors or something.
Like, they're not handing out those, like, the ones that you hand 5-year-olds with the little curved tips. The safety scissors. Like, man, that's not...
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's
but
not
you
like
can
you're walking
still,
around with those.
Like, it's... You know, they're blunter than, like, pointy scissors, but you could still stab someone with them.
Yeah. Hell, you could stab them with your makeup brushes or whatever.
Yeah, something.
Like... This list is arbitrary. This is the police tape that's preventing Batman from going up the stairs. Batman could have very easily went up the stairs, but for some reason,
it's impassable waist high fence. It's so
it angers me.
It's so like you have to get the key to go through this door when you have like grenades, and you could just blow up the door. But that's not how the game mechanic works.
I also don't like I deal with it, but I don't like the whole, if she's dancing and everybody in the room is watching her dance. Like, her friends, like, join in her hallucinations.
Mm-hmm.
But for them to do the thing that they're supposed to do in real life,
They have to also be doing things in real life.
Yeah, it's just like, they got to be doing something, so they can't be watching her. So how are they even in her hallucination?
Well, the thing that makes it really confusing is the knife getting one, because they go in and out of it.
Yeah.
Because the radio gets like disconnected for a second, and then he starts to wake up, and
like
then
the
it
power
comes,
in the water.
And they fade out of it back into reality, and then like jump back in at like the same point, or like I guess time has sort of passed while they were gone, but it's only like a minute or something,
I guess.
and they just come right back to it as soon as the music starts again. So that's the one that makes it confusing, because otherwise it's just well, we don't really understand how it works. What dancing could she possibly be doing that starts with that like mildest ever swaying that could just hypnotize all of these people? It's just a you can't justify it at all, so you just have to go with it if it's going to work at all.
She could literally be hypnotizing the targets, and then the other girls could be killing them.
Yeah, which is the other thing. Why have the layer of the objectives if everybody's that distracted? You could just walk up to Blue and get his key in the first scene when she dances, or the second one, I guess, because they don't know that it happens.
They don't know the plan yet, but it's just like at a point. At a point, it could happen. But they didn't do it.
No, they did. Well, like when she's going to get the map, and she comes and says like she's going to dance, and him and black guy we've never seen before and never see again stop eating their lunch to go and check it out. And like then, like he's in the room, and they already know what the plan is by that point. And she dances, and they just steal the map instead. And so it's like, just kill everybody and then get the map if you need to know how to get out of here. But then it won't, like, there's nobody to stop you.
Yeah. Easy.
Especially
Snyder, I'm ruining your movie.
When there's no... Well, see, the thing is that I don't want this to sound negative, because, like, I do still, like, mostly enjoy the movie. Like, I don't mind the, like, the video gaminess of it. And, like, it is, sort of just exciting spectacle.
Well, I'm almost afraid that that's all it really has, is that it is an exciting spectacle. And I don't like the whole idea, you have to shut your brain off to enjoy a movie. Like, I don't like that either. And the more I was thinking, it's just like, hey, well, they could have just done this. It's so much easier. It's like I could do all of this work and get 1 ruble, or I could do like a half an hour worth of work and walk away with like a gold brick. Like, literally that vast amount of difference. And I'm like, okay, I can tell the story you're trying to tell, but at the same time, what you're handing me doesn't fit the way you want it to go. And I'm like, it's the little things like that just bother me. Like, yeah, all the fantasy scenes where she has to fight the phantom samurai dudes. A wonderful scene. The choreography was great. For the time, the CG was pretty damn good. Like, I have no complaints about these exciting aspects of it. Even whenever it's supposed to be back in the real world, where it's the actual psychiatric ward. Like, at the end of it, whenever Blue is back being like the dude who's just helping run the place, and he gets caught.
Yeah.
And like all of this stuff happens. Like, I think that's great. That's good acting. But then it's just these little bits and pieces where it's just like, hey, are you sure? Like, listen, don't try to do the whole Christopher Nolan spin the top thing. I need some security on that. I need to know which one is actually real.
Well,
because I'd be fine if the stripper one was real. Where like the strippers doing all of the crazy stuff, prostitution, and part of the story was her just trying to finish it. Because now they were free, and maybe, what was her face? The lady that was coming up with the story anyways. Like, she was killed, wasn't she?
I think, yeah.
Because I'm trying to remember if he killed 2 or 3, because there was, like, the Hispanic lady, I don't remember any other names. The Hispanic lady got really scared and then told the madam, and the madam's the one who told Blue. And I'm pretty sure that he killed the Hispanic lady. And I think he killed the madam, and that's when everything went haywire. But I could be wrong. It's been like almost 3 weeks since I've seen it.
Well, I mean, about the spectacle thing, knowing what we know now about things that have been going on with him and his family since this period of time at least, and what happened that made him have to leave directing Justice League, you could say that there are like criticisms of certain types of like psychiatric treatment, and there's the like thing, like she has this voiceover at the end and like repeats the "you have everything you need" thing that the wise man says. And so it sort of seems like you can make it through like what your difficulties are yourself, because like treatment doesn't really help, at least treatment of certain kinds, like institutional treatment rather than, just like therapy and psychiatry and stuff, which is mostly true. And I watched it, Brittany watched it, like we watched it together this time, and she had pulled some of that out of it, but I can't find anything where Snyder talks about that. He has this, he didn't really explain much about what it was supposedly about, but in the times when he has explained, he's never said anything like that, and so maybe it was just because he was keeping it private. He does say that one interpretation of it is that it's a critique of the general geek culture, sexism, and like objectifying like that kind of like female hero, just because it's sexy or something.
I almost feel like that's a cop out.
The lollipop chainsaw kind of thing.
That game was awesome.
Which he said,
and
like
hilarious.
a lot of critics criticized it for being like not actually a empowerment story, but just an objectification. Like look at these hot chicks do like violent things and enjoy it. And so if that was what he meant, everybody missed the point, or largely everybody missed the point. Or maybe he didn't make the point sufficiently, and so
I would say he didn't make the point sufficiently, because I didn't catch anything like that out of this. I did get the whenever we go into like the actual video game style fantasies, there was that, hey, this like look how attractive this person is, but I kind of ignore any significance behind it because she's doing it to herself, because it's in her own head.
Yeah, well, it's in her head in the construct of the story, but really it's in Snyder's head.
Well,
So,
I mean, at the same time, if that is the case that he wants to go with, then he failed, and he doesn't have a right to complain about it.
Well, no, I mean, like, if what's going on in Snyder's head is, like, this is real hot, isn't it? Like, the way that people criticize, then, like, it doesn't matter that it's story-wise taking place in a woman's mind, because it isn't, because she doesn't exist. And so it's, like, trying to make it seem okay, but not. But I don't know if that's what it is or not. He's very vague about it. And at the time, this was significant as a Snyder movie for being the first thing that he directed that wasn't based on something else, because he had done Watchmen just previous to this and 300, and like those are based on existing stories, and this wasn't. And so then to see like, is this what's going on? This is like, it's not just him, but like it's something that's coming from him and not being based on something else, because it's story by him and screenplay by him and Steve Sashuba, and so it's not like you can't blame it on like, well, but like Frank Miller wrote this, or so it's not like that.
Well, I mean, maybe that's a reason why he doesn't talk about any of the meaning or anything deeper, because maybe after he created this, he kind of looks at it and goes, maybe this wasn't what I really intended it to be, but it exists now, so I'm just going to move on. Because I do enjoy Watchmen, and I do really love 300, and I did not hate this movie, even though I have my issues with it. You know, Snyder's always been one of those kinds of people where it's like he makes something and I'm immediately attracted to it just based off of everything seems to have a layer of connectedness where it's like this is like clearly a Zack Snyder film. So I kind of want to watch it because of that, even if it might not be as good as some of his other work or maybe better than some of his other work.
Yeah, I mean, we have greatly criticized the Snyder and his like darkening of the DC movies. It's hard to say kind of what is his fault and what's the fault of just the
DC,
the studio machine,
yeah,
like screwing it up. But
well, the more you try to be like Marvel, like the more it kind of gets confusing on who has to take responsibility for what decisions that led to the end result.
Yeah, well,
I also want the Snyder cut.
Well,
Release the Snyder cut.
See, okay, so we might as well talk about this because we haven't really.
He says it's real. He says it exists.
He says it's real and he says it exists. But the thing is that if we ever get the Snyder cut, which I think will be a number of years if we do, because if you release it too close, like it took us 20 years to get a recutting and finishing of the Star Trek the motion picture, because like it wasn't, the thing about the motion picture is that it wasn't just that it wasn't as good as it was supposed to be, or like they legitimately didn't have enough time. The Paramount said like it's coming out in December of '79 in whatever shape it's in. One of the executives, according to people involved, said that if like some of the effect sequences consist of just black leader tape, the movie goes to theaters. And what ended up happening was they just spliced in everything they possibly could, didn't get to go back through and do anything, and the print of the last reel was literally put wet in the can and handed to Robert Wise so that he could then get on the airplane that was going to fly him to DC for the premiere the next day. Like, that's how close it was. And he at the time, he said he wanted, like, we didn't get to really finish it. Like you said, it had to come out, so we had the premiere. It's been out a while. Now it's, it's been a year or so. Let's go back and spend the time like we would have if we were making it in an ordinary context and finish it. And the studio said, if we do that, it'll look like we didn't have very much confidence in it, or that we thought that we failed or did a bad job or something. So they wouldn't let him do it. And then, years and years pass, and eventually they go back and fix it after it's been long enough that none of those concerns matter anymore. But and so you can't do it right now while there are still DC Universe movies coming out, because it makes it look like you're admitting that mistakes were made.
They already know that mistakes were made.
I know, but
no one needs them to actually admit to it, because everyone's already putting the blame on them anyways.
But it's still a really hard thing for a large corporation to admit. But the thing is that when it does happen, it'll be very much like the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, which exists. I have the HD DVD of it over there on the shelf. And, it's on, various different formats as well. And it came out a number of years ago now. The thing about it is, it's as close as he could get to making the movie that he intended to make, but there's like 6 weeks of shooting that he wasn't there for, and then a bunch of other stuff that they reshot, that Richard Lester reshot. And so the material to make the movie that he would have made if he had been allowed to stay on the project the whole time doesn't exist. And it must be something like that with Justice League also, because there's a bunch of stuff that they just didn't shoot. and that because the production wasn't finished yet, and so there it can't ever be the movie that Snyder would have made if he had just finished it at the time, because there are things that just don't exist. And so it would still be interesting to see, being that we have the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, it would be interesting to see what can be constructed. But it's not it can never be the movie that it would have been.
No, Justice League, that was the one that he had to quit midway because his daughter
That's what
died.
I mean.
Yeah, so stuff should exist that just wasn't used.
Well, stuff does exist that wasn't used,
because he never
but
finished
also
it himself.
Stuff that wasn't they didn't get to make because he left, and the rest of that was like rewritten and shot differently by Whedon, and so it can't be like, I'm sure there is some construction of it that exists, but it's not. We of course have, we've talked variously about the difference between George Lucas and various other directors, where they have different versions of their films, but they allow us access to the various versions and let you decide what you want to watch, which is something that George has not ever done. And so like we had for a long time 2 versions of Apocalypse Now. There are now 3 versions, because there is a new cut called the Final Cut that's on the 4K edition, the 40th anniversary or whatever it is that just came out at the end of last year. So there are now 3 versions of that, but they all come on the, like, if you buy the 4K 40th anniversary edition, you get all 3 of them, and the Hearts of Darkness documentary and all the things that have rarely come together in a single package. And there are 5 different cuts of Blade Runner. They all come in the briefcase set, and actually now on all of the various more easily available editions as well. And there are lots of movies like that there are multiple versions of, and so it makes sense to eventually let us have it.
He got fat, that's why he stayed in the shadows, because he was fat.
But just not right now. And so it's and the thing also is that, is it better necessarily?
No,
there's still a lot of the Snyder version in the Justice League that we got.
Yeah,
how much of those problems are Whedon's fault and how much are inherent, and so we don't even know.
That's I guess that's kind of the reason why I think so many people are interested in it. Is like you had Zach work on so much to begin with, and then it's just like people kind of held him to a standard, and then like, oh yeah, my daughter's dead, I've got to take care of this, and then they're just like, hey, you do superhero stuff, work on this and then finish it. And you have 2 completely different people. And so like, how much of it was really changed? What was there that wasn't used? Like, even if it was like, here's the differences, just we don't even need to watch it. Just tell us what the differences are, so we have a better understanding of why it changed or why this is important. Mm-hmm. And that's why I don't like, we never received like a special crazy cut of this movie. Like this is
it is a different cut, but okay, so I've been looking here, and it seems like most of what is added is the dance sequences in the nightclub, the like Moulin Rouge like style big production-y number.
That's right.
And there is significant addition to the high roller scene at the end.
Yes,
because apparently that was the thing that was like, they left the dance stuff out because they didn't have time to finish some of it. I think they said there was a lack of time, and so he said way back before the DVD came out that he intended, when the DVD came out, that he would have all of that stuff back in. But then, in order to get under an R rating, the MPAA made him cut down that scene at the end and make it seem like it was more rapey, which seems kind of like counterintuitive. Like, if it's more rapey, how is that like lower rating deserving? But because of the weirdness of how people think about things and how they should be rated in America, the sort of like, you can murder everyone and no one cares. But then as soon as you like imply sex or nudity, like, nope, no one can see this.
Is that a left boob?
We're all putting our Quaker hats on and censoring this stuff. So there's like
everybody knows you're only supposed to expose the right titty.
there's there is.
That's why Samuel L. Jackson gets the F-bomb in any PG-13 movie he's in.
You can pour beer on a titty, but that beer ain't drinking shit.
You can't apparently imply that there was consent, because then it becomes a scene that implies sex and is therefore rated R. But if you make it seem like a scene that implies rape, PG-13.
Yeah.
And so they cut it down, and then he put it all back and changed the structure of it so that it seemed like what it was meant to.
See, I remember like part of it, but it's like, yeah, like that, like the whole dialogue thing. And watching it again, all I could think of was like SVU.
I mean, I guess, but like it's not.
Like, I'm not dumb. That is him, right?
No, that's John Hamm.
Why? God, why am I so dumb?
I don't know. John Hamm is not an SVU.
That's not the right thing. Come on, slide over. That's right. That's right.
John Hamm is Don Draper. At this point in time, even, he was.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I don't know why I thought it was him.
Although I guess, well, wait, is this... Because this is around the time when Mad Men was ending, and they did the, like, split season thing so that they could get, like, an extra Emmy season and hopefully win even more Emmys. And so maybe this was after... Let's see, when did Matt... oh, no, that went on through 2015, so...
Oh, I forgot he was in Baby Driver.
That. Yeah. He's just really... He goes really crazy in Baby Driver, and it's really amazing.
Yeah, him not... like, that's the dude with the all the facial hair, right? It's like, my wife.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, he's the car fight scene in the parking garage, like that's him. That's like chasing after him to kill him, and like it's really extreme and really frightening and intense.
He's done quite a bit of voice acting.
Yeah. Well, the so the music.
I like the soundtrack so much I went out and bought it.
the music is important to the story, supposedly, and I suppose it is. Although it's all like mostly pre-existing songs, but just like different versions of them made specifically for this. And I want it now. Well, yes, well.
Like legit, that was that song is the reason why I went and got the album. Like, I liked it, but that one was like the guaranteed.
Now, the poster says a mind-bending vision of reality from the director of Watchmen and 300. You will be unprepared. Now, I can't remember it being a long time ago, of course, if we were unprepared or not, but that does seem to be one of those. I just re-listened today to the 5 Steps to Danger episode that we did way back in like the 40s or wherever it is, 30s or 40s, and episode numbers, not literally the decades of the 30s and 40s.
No, I was thinking like if it was 4 steps to danger,
5 steps to danger.
5 steps to danger. Maybe that was whenever we were doing the number series.
No, it was. Actually, yes, it was.
Yeah, so that'd be like 31.
Because that was when we were. It's in the like in between period when Kenny wasn't on. But we we talk about the poster in that, and then it says like first this, then that. Then the terror began. And we were taken much by surprise that there was supposed to have been terror that took place that we didn't realize.
Yeah, we
happened.
Completely missed.
But and so it does feel like maybe a bit of an overstatement in that kind of way, that you will be unprepared, because I don't really
Okay.
feel that we were that unprepared, which may tie into his explanation of what the title is supposed to mean, which is very vague in the way that he explains it, despite taking up several sentences.
So between this having mind-bending effects and 5 steps of whatever being super terror, it always makes me wonder, like, what did it take to actually scare people like 50 years ago, 100 years ago? Because there is like a folklore story of like, oh yeah, don't go out late at night because you might run into a dude and you're going to be like, hey dude, you need help. And he's not going to answer you. He's just going to take off his clothes and bend over, and he doesn't have an asshole. He has an eyeball there. And supposedly that's super terrifying. He don't do anything to you. He just winks his asshole at you, and it's an eyeball. And I'm like, how are these things scary to people? Like, am I just that desensitized, or it's like 5 steps of horror? Like, no, brah. Like, stop.
Well, it was I mean,
Stop.
we talked about in that episode that it was the fear of, you know, the communists in the suit period of time, and so everybody was super on edge. And I think for that period of time, you can watch the movie Matinee with John Goodman, which is really, really good, and we'll eventually get to on the show at some point. But like that takes place in like I think it's like what is it, 61 or 62, whatever year the Cuban Missile Crisis happened. Like it takes place during that like couple of months when that was happening, and it takes place in Florida, and like it's mostly you know, John Goodman playing a character with a different name that's supposed to be the guy that did all of the like smell-o-vision and like shocking things in the seats of the theater, and all the like really like try to scare you in like external ways that his cheap creature features wouldn't do on their own. But the people in that seeing the thing, some of them are presented as being sort of scared by it, and you know the sort of punch towards the end of it is that people are convinced that something real is happening by it happening, and that it's not like like something is happening in his movie that's sort of extra scaring them because they're worried about that maybe Cuba's going to shoot off a missile at us anytime while it's happening. And so it's like building on that too.
Like he's on the phone being like, hey Cuba, can you like fire a missile at
No,
these
it's not.
coordinates?
It's not like that. If it was happening in 5 Steps to Danger, that what would happen, because what we discovered in that is like everyone is crooked, including the CIA. It seems like, but it was, so what scares people does vary from time to time, I suppose, but. And I guess there is an amount of desensitization that happens, although, you know, individual people haven't existed for all that period of time. So it's maybe there's like a cultural desensitization, but things of various kinds still scare various people and not various other people.
Well, this movie didn't punch me without me seeing it.
Well, what he says is there's a mechanism in the movie that sneaks up on you. We sort of plant the seed of this thing, and then at the end of the movie, it kind of comes back around. I think that, in some ways, that's what the sucker punch is. But also you, the audience, have like a preconceived idea when you look at Baby Doll. You think she's innocent and sweet, that she's capable of only a certain amount of things. But I think that's a mistake. So that has something to do with the title, too. So there is sort of a, like, you don't expect her to be like an action hero, I guess, and then she is. But also, I guess, what is the mechanism, the lobotomy? Because, like, I don't otherwise know what it is that comes back around at the end.
Like,
so
it's like that feels like it's too vague a comment.
It's very vague.
It's too vague.
Well,
a
he doesn't
comment.
really want to tell you. I mean, he's doing the like, I'm not going to tell you whether the top falls over or not kind of thing. And so it's pretty vague. Because it is a title that has at least on the surface, nothing at all. Like, it's not explained within the context. Nothing is ever called that. Nobody says that. There's no title check or anything. But I guess. Also, this says it's supposed to be World War One, which I guess it is because they have zeppelins and biplanes and stuff.
And lots of trenches.
Lots of trenches, yeah. Although, if you went to like France and England in the early part of World War II, like there were trenches because they won the war in trenches in World War One, and so they thought, we'll just build better trenches this time. And then Germany comes along and says, like, we have airplanes now, and just flies over the trenches. And so then they were like, okay, we'll have to try something else. And so then,
beer in one hand,
victory through air
sausage
power
in the
and all
other
that.
hand,
and so they're
standing on a pile of sauerkraut.
But
Zablimps.
there were trenches in the early part of the war.
Just a tank rolling over the trench. Like, no,
Yeah.
we built them too wide for
We
that.
built them-
Haha.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, we got flamethrowers.
Alternatively, Andrew O'Hare, writing for Salon magazine, said about the title. What?
All I can think about is this stupid mech suit, and it had a fucking like a bunny on it, and all like I didn't remember that. I just remember like the mech and someone piloted the mech, and the thing started. I go, I swear to God, this is gonna be just like Diva, isn't it? And it was the Asian lady in the robot with the bunny on it, and I'm like, all right, that's Diva. I'm done. I'm just gonna go over here and go back to drinking, and that's all I could think about. Like, oh, we gotta fight these zombie people in a mech suit. It's okay. I played Overwatch.
Not back then.
Eh.
He says, if you want to understand Snyder's central narrative gambit, it's right there in the title. He gives us what we want, or what we think we want, or what he thinks we think we want. Absurdly fetishized women in teeny little skirts, gloriously repetitive fight sequences loaded with plot coupons, pseudo-feminist fantasies of escape and revenge. Then he yanks it all back and stabs us through the eyeball.
But he really doesn't, because the lady still escapes, because they shift perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you get to see ass. Like the skirt's like, oh, look, the skirt chasers. But it's not like we get to see... What, skirt chasers?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, it's not like, oh, well, it's like, we got these movements so we can actually see up the skirt, so it's not doing you any good. You might as well just being like wearing jeans or something. You actually show off the ass.
Well, we can say about the clothes.
This is highly impractical.
Yeah. I can't argue with that.
But, because it's Lollipop Chainsaw. Like, it doesn't...
At least Lollipop Chainsaw, you can move the camera around, all right?
Well,
so if
there's
you
plenty...
if you want to be that pervert, you can.
There's plenty of camera movement happening. There's a lot of camera movement happening. Which, like, when we first started watching it, Brittany said, like, wow, this is really Snyder. And it's like before we're even at the asylum, it's in the like opening like murder sequence.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it really is like, I think it may be the most Snyder ever Snydered right here. It's
like you used him as a noun and a verb and like an adjective all in one sentence. Congratulations. I'm very proud of you.
Buffalo. But it really is. Like, it's really Snyder. In, like, a way, like, we've kind of forgotten that, like, Snyder was, 300 and, like, less so in Watchmen because that he's doing such a great deal of effort to make live-action versions of graphic novel panels. But especially in 300, it's so, like, nothing in the frame is real except the people, and even then a lot of times there's no people. And like you can when she is before she escapes to the bus, when she steals the dress off of the clothesline, that you could have just like plucked a background out of 9 almost and just put like the animated 9, the like Sackboys 9.
Yeah.
and just put her in it, and like that's what it looks like. There's nothing real life looking about it. Like it's
No.
good quality. Like it's
But
you know,
you can still
it's
tell.
real life like render level, but it's so stylized that it doesn't look like a real place. And it's another thing that makes that part weird, because I'm not sure what part of what's supposed to be real life that part of the story is in, because it doesn't look like the asylum layer at all. And we've never seen outside the nightclub except when they escape and there's the guys standing around the cars, and it doesn't look like that really. And so it's this whole other, like, it almost could be in one of the game worlds,
Yeah.
but it's not, or I guess
I
it's
mean,
not.
the old man was in the game
old man is in the
world.
game world and he's there, but it's hard to say. Now there is a layer or a level of, while it is exciting action, there is a flatness to it because we know it's not actually happening.
Yeah, like it doesn't
Like,
feel like there's actual
there's
risk.
no danger, no,
Yeah.
because it's not real. They're imagining it. And although I guess there is some linkage to things in it transferring to the real world, like she actually gets killed in both places, but we don't know that until like the third time they do it. And so the rest of the time we don't really know that there's anything that can actually be dangerous. So there is something there where it's like it's not as exciting as action that we know is happening to, you know, real people, because it's not happening to those people even. Like there are other things that are happening to those people, if those are even the real people. We don't
Yeah.
know if that's true. So there is a flattening that happens.
Well, all in all, I could kind of accept, ignore, move past if it was more or less a guarantee that it's like, okay, well, if she really does exist and she really did escape and that is all real, like I just want that level of certainty, because even if like what happened to Baby Doll, like that's terrible, but at least I know that that was real and that this person managed to escape and this person actually got his just desserts. Like actual actions and consequences of these actions really did happen and really did take place in some fashion, whether they just be psychological or like actual real. But because of that whole ambiguity, you know, you can't tell. And if you can't tell, you can't say for certain, obviously. And so I'm left caring less about anything that could have happened. Like, oh, this lady escaped. But why do I care if it's not real within the context of this world?
Well, if it is a metaphor for abuse or lack of effectiveness or both of things happening in psychiatric treatment places, like it doesn't if that's the point, then it doesn't necessarily have to be that any of it's real if it's all just sort of metaphorical. But there's so little of the movie that takes place in that part of the world that maybe that's one of the things that it might be trying to say, but that doesn't make up for the confusingness of the rest of it that we spend most of the time in.
Well, that's the thing that I'm going to go back to is if we spend so little time there, but if it's not real because it's the delusions or the story being told from the prostitution house, then it still wouldn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it's just a story that they're telling and they're still trapped.
Yeah. Well, and that we have in this version of it, the really extended scene with the high roller where he talks a lot about like having everything but like wanting other people to choose things, and that it seems like he might be having a lot to say of some kind, but then if that's not in a real place either, then it's hard to say what that matters.
But see, then on his character, that kind of flip-flops. Because even though he's still supposed to be the doctor that's lobotomizing her, you know, he kind of feels bad for her because, you know, like as he does it, he can like look her in the eye, and it's just like this look of like, yeah, just do it.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, I just love lobotomizing people. You know, it's a reverse of that style on a character.
Yeah.
So it's just like, is she actually getting raped? And inside someone's head
by the orderly.
Yeah, and then, well, no, not by the orderly, by the high roller.
Oh yeah.
Like if she's actually getting raped by the high roller, and it's either in her head or in someone's head who is telling the story of the psych ward. It's like, oh yeah, she's being raped, but she'd rather have just been lobotomized, and that's why she is lobotomized in the other half of the story. Or is it something where she's being lobotomized, but she's feeling like she's being raped?
Well, I think she supposedly was raped by the creepy uncle, or at least attempted to be, whether it happened or not. And that's why she was trying to shoot him and escape.
I thought he was trying to rape the sister.
Well, yeah, but if he's raping the sister, he's probably raping her too.
Yeah.
And so there, if that's true, like there could be something really dark and heavy here that just wasn't surfaced very well. If it is commenting on like the hopelessness that you might have after having been raped, or if you have some other reason that you need mental health treatment and that you want to, like, maybe not necessarily you want to be lobotomized, but you just want to just check out, you know, maybe yourself, like, or if they can take it away and that takes the pain, like there, you know, there could be like suicide things here, there could be rape trauma things here, but none of it is surfaced well enough that it seems to have gotten through to anybody largely. So,
well, like the start of this movie is the death of the parents, and then the uncle comes in, or who I'm assuming is the uncle, and there's the sisters.
Yeah, the
older sister, Babyface, is being assaulted by the uncle, and she manages to escape and like locks herself in her room. Then the uncle goes after the other one. She realizes this and she like escapes out the window or whatever, and then she manages to get the gun. But instead of just shooting him, she flinches after like a minor scuffle. The firearm goes off, it ricochets, and it kills her sister.
Yeah.
And the uncle puts her in the psych ward.
Yeah.
It's not that she is admitting herself. Like, her uncle is directly putting her there. And, like, that portion I can understand because it's like, hey, I could inherit all of this stuff. And I don't want my niece to admit to, like, no, I wasn't trying to rape them. She killed her sister. I'm going to have her admitted and all drugged up, so we don't got to worry about her. And then we're going to finally get her lobotomized so she can't tell anyone anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like that is just like the little build up. So I kind of have a little more of a difficult time with like the whole getting admitted part, because it wasn't her decision. It's not like something that happened in her life and then she's like, no, I'm not well, and then I'm being put here. She was forced to be put there by someone else. Mm-hmm. So instead of it being from her perspective, it would have to be like our perspective of us putting someone that we care about in the hospital because we think it will help them.
Which that could be heavy and meaningful.
Like,
also,
I think that would have to be the route, because it's not like I'm in the hospital and I'm watching this movie and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I accidentally killed my sister while defending myself from my creepy aunt. Like no, like I don't have that kind of attachment because of like the differences in viewership to charactership. You know, I can't be her because of the things that led to her point. I would end up having to be more like the uncle because I would have to put a family member in. I'd say the same thing would be something similar on the lines of like putting your grandparents in a retirement home or something.
Yeah, which it could, that's something to think about, or that you could think people need to think about and put in the story in order to cause. It could mean, more, could mean things besides what it literally says.
Yeah.
I'm
Too
just
vague.
not sure. So it's it is a bit vague.
Yeah, like it's just that tiny little bit where I could always point back to it and be like, no, like this right here, Snyder gave this to us as an anchor. This is real. And then I can then branch off of that anchor and be like, okay, so here's this, and here's where this part is important because of whatever meaning he may have been trying to push. But because there is no anchor, it all kind of like warps back into itself. And then I'm like, well, if that's that, then that's that. And then that's that. And then that's that. So there's no ending to it. And then I'm just going to have to stop caring and move on.
To the next episode.
No, it's not time for that yet. So how do you feel about stars?
I'm gonna give it a 3. I'm gonna give it a strong 3. It would easily get a 4 if I just had that anchor.
It's right there, and like I kind of feel bad because I feel like maybe we're just not getting it or something. But maybe it's weird, but like I want to blame us for not getting it rather than blame Snyder for not giving it to us, because maybe it's there and we just don't see it. Maybe we don't have the right perspective or something to see it. Because neither of us have been committed to a hospital or been raped, so it's hard. It's hard to say. Maybe you might see it differently if you have. Scott Mendelson of the Huffington Post described it as bitterly sad and an angrily feminist mini epic. It's right. It's so hard. Like I want to say 4, but I don't know if I can. If I say 3, it doesn't mean that I don't like it though, and that I don't enjoy it still, mostly, because I do. I'm going to say 3. I think. But it hurts. But also it's a heavy 3. Like yours is. So it's close. It's right there. It's right at the edge. It's almost there. Have been thinking about recently movies that, especially from this period of time, that maybe I had, that if I looked at them now, I might have different thoughts about them. And like one of the other one, like I didn't go into this thinking that, like I wasn't thinking like I'm going to discover like mental health metaphors and stuff here. But I have been thinking a lot about Limitless, because I didn't really like Limitless at the time, because I felt like in like a literal way, there's a lot of bogusness happening in it. And it bothered the only using a small percentage of our brain thing bothered me, and then the like my body produces it now thing that he has at the end bothered me.
Yeah, like the science behind it was kind of like, ugh.
But then I've been thinking lately that maybe that's not the point. Maybe the like literal things are not the point. Maybe it is some kind of like, maybe it is a metaphor or an allegory or something that's like trying to tell us something the way that science fiction is supposed to, or often does, about like that you can do stuff if you try, or that like his like I can do it on my own now thing at the end, I think is the thing that was really making me think. And I haven't rewatched it yet. And also I've never seen the like extended version of that either that's on the DVD. And so I don't know if maybe that there's a bit more in there, because it's not like that's an especially, like you're not going to add big action sequences or something to it, because it's not that kind of movie. Like there is a little bit of action in it, but so there, if there is extra content in it, maybe it's explanatory content, or maybe it makes the point more clear if it's there. And so I've been wanting to do that and take another look at it. Not at the. I think that's 2011 also. So it's the other things from around this time. I don't have any interest in going back and looking at Battle Los Angeles for heavy things in it that we didn't.
Are you sure? Like those rolly balls seem kind of heavy.
Yeah. There's lots of there's lots of army equipment. There's lots of heavy, literally heavy things, but I don't know if there are metaphorically heavy things in it. But I think there might be in Limitless that I wasn't thinking about at the time because I was looking at it as a literal thing the way that it's presented. And so then like thinking about it as, like a lot of this has been brought on by my like dislike of currently being produced Star Trek things, which does not include Picard, because Picard, as we record this, doesn't start for like another week. And I'm hopeful for that maybe they won't screw that up the way that they. But like,
I don't know. Like I've seen some stuff for it, and I'm like, I don't know if he's gonna like this.
Several weeks ago, well, it's still being executive produced by the same. Like it's still the same people involved that have been doing what they've done in Discovery and the short treks. But like one of the short treks in particular, of this last batch, this at the end of last year, and I haven't watched the animated ones yet, or the one or two of the other live action ones, but one of them made me so like it made me the most angry, like more angry than I've been at even anything that's happened in Discovery. It was the most not Star Trek thing that I've ever seen, but the most anti-Star Trek thing that I've ever seen. That was wearing Star Trek clothes. Like, it made me so, like, I was, like, shaking angry after it. And it made me really, really, really angry. And then, not just because of that, but because of that and because of Discovery, I've been thinking about, like, the job of Star Trek and the job of science fiction generally, in listening to people talk about how like it's not right, who gets to decide what's Star Trek and not. And like I think what the thing besides just having Starfleet deltas on everybody's clothes that makes something Star Trek or not is the like hopeful, like we're gonna get to somewhere better than we are now because look, we're out in space, and maybe we have to like kill 600 million people in World War III in order to do it, but we're gonna get there. Things are gonna get better. Things are bad now, but they're gonna get better. And which is not something that a lot of the currently produced stuff is telling us. Things will get better and people will get better, and that's how things get better. And also show us what's wrong with what we're doing now that's keeping us from getting there, but without showing it be the same. And also largely the job of science fiction to give us a sneaky perspective on something so that you don't realize that they're telling you that what's happening in the present time is dumb and here's why. But it is dumb and here's why. But it's disguised. And so it gets underneath people in a way that without them realizing, and then they start thinking about the things that we're doing that are dumb and why, and they don't know why. And then for some reason I start, probably because Brittany's been doing this like looking back at the decade thing and been watching things from the previous 10 years, and then I was thinking about Limitless because it was there, like it's it's 9 years ago now, and thinking about, oh wait, it actually is like Limitless is a science fiction story, even though it takes place in basically the present time. And I wonder if maybe it has something to say. And I started thinking about that scene at the end where he says it, which is a little like this, where she says at the end, like, you have everything you need. And so maybe that, I think there probably are like addiction things in it and, maybe other things, but there may be sort of a central point in it that I missed because I was looking at the literal things. And so I'm interested to look at that. And I think because I'm thinking about that then I'm looking at I'm looking at this and I'm like, is there something here? It seems like maybe there's something here. Some people say that maybe there's something here. And so just because I didn't see it or we didn't see it are we being too hard on it maybe? So I think like that's where it's coming from, sort of.
I don't think that's fair for both us and it, because like you could have the entire movie's like points, like the whole reason it exists, in super fine text that plays at the very bottom of the screen during the movie that you'd have to like search for and like re-render the movie just to get it. And you know what? No, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. I was there to watch a movie, and if he wanted to have a point in it, then that's fine. But if I fail, like he didn't give me the point that he intended, then I have to state that. Now, if he comes back later and he's like, hey, I'm going to actually tell you what I was trying to do, and then I can compare to that. I'll be like, hey, I did pick that up, or I didn't pick that up. But at the same time, outside of getting it or not getting it, did I enjoy watching it? Because films are art, and people like art, and I like looking at films. And so if I liked looking at it and I got the point that he was trying to get across, then that's just a double win. If I liked watching it and I didn't get the point, then it's only one win. If I think it was terrible, and if he tells me what he wanted me to pick up and I didn't get that either, sorry, bruh. Didn't work out.
Well, I mean, as we've learned on the show, you can be dumb but still look at stuff.
Yes.
So I
want that on a
That
t-shirt.
we're looking at stuff, and that it doesn't mean we're being dumb just because we're looking at stuff. So I think it's one of the things that I think about a lot that's come from the show, is that you can be dumb but still look at stuff. It's one of the good quotations.
And beers don't drink things.
No.
Things drink beer.
Yes, well.
Colonel's been having beer with his cereal again.
Oats.
Bazookas!
You know,
Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter. Links in the description. Leave a comment if you got it or didn't get it, even if it just means getting the groceries you were supposed to pick up.
you know, Blue went and opened a nightclub, and then
I'd have people who come in asking for it.
They actually did.
so
I got a nightclub. Yeah, do you got any hose?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got hose everywhere. No. I mean, like the kind that I can stick my penis in. Oh, yeah, I got rooms over there for that.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, hose works for that too.
Yeah.
You can stick whatever you want into a hose,
Yeah.
assuming it's the appropriate size.
Hose mad.
I guess that's all we have to say. So, we'll see you next time.
Later.